My name is Robin Stafford, and I work with the UVA Clubs. We have done a bunch of virtual programming this year in the time of COVID, and I was very happy to learn about Tom, an alum, class of 76, right here in Charlottesville. He and his wife were in South Carolina for the past 20-ish years, Tom, and recently moved back to Charlottesville, and he is working at Farmington. He thought he was just going to be doing some clinics and part-time work, but lo and behold, he is now the interim golf director there. So very busy, but he did take some time to film some tips for us. And we will watch that video first tonight and then hope you'll stay on for Q&A. After that, Tom has some great stories and we'll answer more questions. If you have questions during the program, please enter those in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll get to as many of those as we can. And we filmed this a few weeks ago at Farmington. It was a gorgeous Saturday, and Tom had everything set up for us. There was a little bit of wind, which you will notice in the video. We have put some closed captioning in the parts where the wind intervenes, so just be prepared for that. It's just a couple of spots in the video. So anyway, hope you enjoy, and we will see you back here shortly for Q&A. Thank you. And Ashley, go ahead and roll the video.
Hello, fellow UVA alumni. I'm Tom McKnight, class of 1976, and I am now the interim director of golf here at Farmington Country Club in Charlottesville. So Robin Stafford had called me and asked me to see if I could come up with some golf tips or drills that we thought maybe some of you guys could actually improve your game and maybe actually get a sponsor exemption into the Masters this week. So I don't know if it's too late for that, but we will work on it. So I have several drills and tips that I think that would help your game. We'll see how that goes, but we're going to start with putting and go from there. All right, we're going to start first with a putting drill. To me, putting is about three different things. One is beginning the putt on the line that you want it to. And two is getting the speed correct to match up with that line so you can get the ball close to the hole. And the third thing is be able to read the greens, and that's determining exactly where you want to start the putt. Reading the slopes of the greens and all the undulations and figuring that out. But right now, this drill is going to be about trying to get the ball started on your intended line. So many people have a hard time aiming the club face, and they think they're aimed at the hole, but they're not. So I've got a little wicket that I've put here right in front of the ball that I know it's easy to aim to that wicket. It's easier to aim here than the hole because it's so close. So I want to make sure that I can aim in that wicket, figuring if I can get it through the wicket, then I can get it to go all the way to the hole. I'm really concentrating about getting my eyes acclimated to the hole, acclimated to the ball and the wicket, and to make all those combined to where I can be aimed at the hole when I think I am. So many people don't. But once you get to this distance, which is probably 6 feet, 6 to 8 feet, even the PGA Tour pros, their average is only about 50% from 8 feet. And once you get beyond 8 feet, it goes down drastically. So this is when it's more important to be perfectly aimed at the hole or close to it, so you're not making compensations during the putt. But I think this drill will really help you. Just get set up with the wicket in front of you. Get lined up. Just like that. Hi, we've already done a drill for direction. This drill will be for speed. To me, speed is really the most important thing when putting. Is trying to get the ball end up near the hole if you don't make it. Obviously, we'd love to make it, but if we don't, we won't have something that we can tap in or be close to the hole for the next shot. So I think this is a great drill to work on your speed. What I have done is made a box, which I call a speed box. So we're working on speed. We have the ball, and I've put a tee in the ground to kind of mark the spot that we're going to start from. The idea is we're going to get it to go across the line, and each putt that we hit is playing leapfrog. It's like, what can I do to hit this one just a little harder than that one? And I just keep going and see how many balls I can get in that box. And as soon as one does not get past the previous one, you bring them all back and start over. And once you get good at that, then you take your tee and move it back and do the same thing further back. And as we progress and get better at it, we're going to go on the opposite side. Instead of being uphill, which this is an uphill putt, on the opposite side we come down, it's downhill, and the speed, you'll realize how much faster it is and how much harder it is than doing it from below the hill. And talking about speed, it makes me think of Augusta, of a putt I had there, which was, you know, unbelievable to me. I had not played so great the first day, and I finished up great at the end of the first round and got myself back in shape for the tournament and got off to a pretty good start in the second round. And by the time I got to 16, I was in good shape to make the cut as an amateur. And, you know, that was thrilling for me to be in that spot. But I'd hit a really good shot on the par 3 16. It was probably no more than 6 feet from the hole, right straight behind, thinking it was like perfectly straight putt, I'm thinking, and not much slope. But when I hit the putt, I mean, I hit it, just barely touched it, and it's just barely rolling. And when it got to the hole, I'm thinking, well, I made it, and I'm thinking, oh, this is great. Well, it just went right over the right edge and didn't break, and it just kept trickling and trickling. It's just like it was on ice. And it caught the slope, and it went about 40 or 50 feet to the front of the green. I said, oh my, and now I've got this one coming back for par. Made a good 2-putt to make bogey. Got out of there with a couple pars on the next hole and still made the cut. But it just made me realize that, you know, you really do have to pay attention to speed. But Augusta week, you really do. The next shots I want to talk about are what I call finesse shots around the green. Most people say they have chip shots, or is this a chip, or is this a pitch? And to me, it's all about a matter of hitting it higher or hitting it lower. And there's several different options of hitting it lower. And I'm going to talk about that for just a second. And then I'm going to show you an example of what I do in a drill that I think would make you better at hitting the type shots. All right, there are 4 choices I think you can make to change your trajectory of the ball. One would be club choice, and I could choose to hit a sand wedge, which would make it higher than, say, an 8-iron. So your choice of whether to hit a high or low would be a club choice. The other would be, it's the way I hold the club. Maybe you actually take your club you have and open the face, and that adds more loft. You want to hit it higher, or you can close it to make it go lower. The next way would be ball position, which I'm talking about where the ball is in relation to your feet in your stance. If I have it in the middle of my stance, it'd be kind of normal. If I play it further back, I have de-lofted the club to make it hit lower. I can move it forward in my stance. That would actually make it go higher. The next choice would be hand position. I could say I'm playing the ball in the middle of my stance, but I can put my hands slightly forward. That just de-lofted the club as well to make it go lower. Keep my hands a little more neutral, which will keep the full loft of the club to make it go higher. So those are kind of your choices. Everybody has a different preference for those. And some people like to use club choices different. Some people like to use the same club for a lot of different directions. But I'll give you a drill right here that I think is great. You can see I've put 2 different markers in between here and the hole. This is a sand wedge I have in my hand. I will actually go to the first marker, and I'm going to try to hit a lower shot with a sand wedge. And how I would do that would be my ball position and hand position. So I'll play it slightly back of center with my hands slightly forward. I hit it low and the ball rolls. The next shot I'm going to hit is playing it more neutral. That'd be in the middle of my stance with my hands, the shaft being straight up and down, very neutral. So now I've got the full loft to the sand wedge. I might even open the face just a little bit by rotating it to the right to hit a little higher shot to try to land at the second marker. So it hits much softer. And so you have 2 choices with the same club just based on ball position and hand position. Now we're going to try some bunker shots. This is a place that you probably would prefer not to be in, but you get there all too often. But I'm telling you, the best way not to be in a bunker is to get really good with your bunker shots. The better you get, the fewer bunkers you'll end up hitting into. But I'm going to tell you, what I like to do is in the setup is have a wider stance, kind of sitting down with a little bit more weight on your left leg, your lead leg. Not a lot, but maybe just feel like that there's a little more in it than the right. Most people, I've drawn a line here, and I'm going to pretend that the ball is just in front of that line. Most people, when they hit sand shots, they tend to hit too far behind it, and they say, oh, I'm just hitting too steep. Those same people will actually start coming up, and they'll hit the ball in the middle of the ball with the leading edge of the club face, and it goes flying over the green, and they think, well, I hit too close to the ball. It's not really that you hit too close to the ball, but you usually hit too far behind it, and then the club starts to come back up. The club's up and down, and if you hit too far behind it, it comes back up. So I have a drill that I've got a line that I've drawn over here behind these balls, and I'm going to try to hit the club into that line, which is about maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches behind the ball. Everybody's just a little different, but that's kind of in the neighborhood where it should be. But I do not hit behind that line. So when you get in the bunker, you can put some balls in a row, put the line about 1.5 inches to 2 inches behind it, and try to hit into that ball, into the line, I mean, and it's going to take out a little strip of sand. It's just like an explosion on the ball. So you can see how I've drawn this line behind these 4 balls. I'm just going to try to get the club to enter the sand right in the line, and I'm looking to take out almost the shape of a dollar bill sand. It's just kind of explosion. I'm not worried about hitting the ball. I'm worried about the explosion making the ball come out. That shot right there, that's hitting too shallow and thin. Actually, I hit a little bit too far behind and it came through. That reminds me of a shot I actually hit in the U.S. Amateur one year. It was not a good feeling. I was actually at the hot springs at the Homestead and the Upper Cascades. I'll never forget, I was medalist in the qualifying. In my first match, I was 3 or 4 up going into 9 and hit in the greenside bunker. The fellow I was playing, who was a good player, was having a tough day so far. And he'd left it way short of the green, about 100 yards, and was not even on the green. Before it was over with, I'd hit a shot like that that went way over the green, end up putting it in my pocket, and end up losing that match 1 down. It was like it was all because of a bunker shot. So work on your bunker shots, put the line behind, make it much easier, and you won't hit it in as many. Now we're going to talk about some driving. I have so many people ask, how can I hit the ball farther? How can I get more club head speed? And in the way things are right now with the Bryson DeChambeau and Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson hitting the ball so far, it's like, we want to hit the ball further. And I found that it's very hard to add club head speed. You can do a little by getting the proper club would help, being in shape, being flexible, all of that will help. And as you get older, all that helps to kind of maintain what you had, and you don't tend to add a whole lot of more club head speed. But what I will say is that it becomes more about ball speed than club head speed. You hear them talking about all the young kids have this ball speed. Well, what's the difference in ball speed and club head speed? Club head speed produces the ball speed, but only as efficient as you hit it solid. So what I'd like to talk about today is just one simple thing you can do to help you hit the ball in the center of the club face, being much more solid. And sometimes that comes, you can actually do it on full swings, but I like to actually do half swings to really kind of to show you what I'm talking about. But what I'm going to do is I've got some Dr. Scholl's foot spray powder. I made the mistake of telling somebody one day what to get, and I said get foot spray, and they got spray but didn't get the powder. You've got to get powder because we're going to spray it on the club head. You see how it kind of turns white. I want to hit a couple shots and show you what happens. So you can see, I don't know, can you see right there? We can see right my ball mark, right in a little toward the heel, not quite in the center. It wasn't a terrible shot, but it wasn't solid completely. It looked okay in the air, but I promise you it didn't go as far as it would have been if it had been in the center. So what do? I keep hitting some more shots and trying to create that ball mark right in the center of the club face. If you can see, if I keep hitting it toward the heel, maybe I'm backing up and get a little further away. Opposite, if it maybe goes off the toe. But you'll find a way, without being very technical, of how I can get those ball marks more in the center. Like I say, I think a great way to do it is to take half shots. Back to here, to here. We're just going to hit the ball solid in the club face. We get one more shot here with a half swing. So I felt that one go out of the heel before I even look at it. And you can see right there is way in the heel. So if I want to be more efficient, I'm going to move it over. I'm going to keep doing that until I get it solid. Then take my full swing until I get it solid. It's a great way to have instant feedback on where you are in the club face. Some people can't tell, some people can, but this will help you get it back in the center. It will make your ball go further. Your ball speed will be better with the same club head speed. I want to thank you for being here today and listening to a little bit of this. I hope you found something that will help your golf game. And I look forward to answering some of your questions with Robin here in a few minutes. And good luck, and I hope one of you gets a call for maybe an extra spot they have in the Masters this week. Thanks.
Tom.
Hi.
That's great. Thank you again for being here with us. I have so many questions came in with the registrations in a couple of different categories about you personally, then a lot more technique questions, and then just kind of general golf interest questions. I think I'll just, many of the questions actually were answered in the video. There are a couple others that I'll ask you first and then move into your kind of your history. So there were a couple questions along these lines. And again, just a reminder to everybody watching, if you have other questions, please enter in the Q&A box and we'll try to get to some of those too. So what are some easy tips for formerly decent players who only play a couple of times a year to do their best when they are out?
Well, I think a key thing is trying to keep flexible, doing a lot of things with exercising flexibility. But if you're not playing very much, you can still grab a club, you can still work on your grip, you can still work on your setup, even if you're in the living room, just trying to get basic things. But once you come out from playing, it's really more about not so much technical thinking, but just trying to get a good rhythm and tempo. Too many people try to overthink so much when they're trying to play, and I think you just need to come out and try to be relaxed as you can and just work on tempo and rhythm.
Okay. How about at the driving range? A couple of questions, best drills and how do you recommend breaking up the range practice sessions into areas of focus?
Well, I think it's more about quality than it is quantity. And I'm learning from experience because I could hit balls for hours and hours. I love doing it. But sometimes it wasn't the best thing to do. And I finally realized that it was more about the quality that you do. And what I would do is I would kind of work my way through the bag, starting with some short irons. Then I would spend just a little bit with medium irons and longer irons, and then more with driver and back to the shorter irons. But to me, especially if it was tournament time, that kind of thing, I would not want to be out thinking of too many different things. I think somebody who has a long checklist, it only takes a little over a second to hit a golf ball, and you're trying to think of 10 different things that you can clog your mind up pretty quick. So to me, it's all about simplifying things. And I think a great drill when you're on the range is to pretend you're playing a hole. You take a driver and you hit it, it's pretending you're on the first hole, and you hit one drive and no mulligans. You pretend, I didn't hit a good drive, I hit it way right. Well, you go, what's over to the right? If there happens to be woods, then maybe you have to pretend you're chipping it out into the fairway. And then I would take a club to kind of chip it out in the fairway and play as many holes as you could play like that in your mind on the range, where you're switching clubs all the time instead of just hitting one club, 20, 30 times in a row. But switch clubs, it's not as boring, and it also is more like playing on a golf course.
That's interesting. And what are the 3 biggest mistakes high handicap players make that they could fix that would noticeably improve their scores?
That's a good question. think overthinking is the first mistake. Trying to do every single thing and having that checklist so long that you can't finish it. When you get somebody that gets over the ball and they're thinking so long, it's taking so long to draw it back, you know that their checklist is way too long, and they've kind of lost any kind of fluid swing. So many people. I'd say more often than not, the poorer the player, the more likely they are to kind of come over the top of the ball, meaning they're getting the club out over plane, and they tend to slice the ball a lot. And I think that's just being very anxious. And once they get the club up there, they just kind of spin around and trying to hit it too hard. Don't try to hit it so hard, try to get a really good tempo. And the other thing is that people don't tend to finish the swing. They don't really get into a good balanced finish. But I think if you get set up, relax your mind, just get working on tempo and get into a good balanced finish.
Okay. And is there a way when you're practicing, are there drills you can do that you can simulate shots under pressure?
Well, I think it's like I said before, is that if you're only hitting one shot at a time, you change your targets all the time, you change your clubs all the time, and not just stay on the practice tee hitting the same shot over and over and over. If you're trying to work on one particular thing, that's fine for a little while, but I would always, get used to going into a routine. I think everybody should have a routine. If you watch the better players, they all tend to do the same. It may be different routines. They all have their own things they're thinking about, but they've practiced those routines of pulling the club out. And maybe, to me, I had a trigger that was, I would always take my glove and I would take it off after most of the shots, or at least I would undo the Velcro on top. And as I was walking down the fairway, I either had it back in my pocket or I was carrying the glove, but I would have that Velcro undone even if I kept it on. And when it was my turn to play, I would put that Velcro on, and then it was my time. It was just my routine, and then I knew what I was going to do. I was going to get behind the ball. I was going to visualize the shot, and I had my own little routine that I was going to do pretty much every shot. And when you're playing around, sometimes you don't think it makes a difference, but when you're trying to make that putt on the last hole to win the club championship, or when you're trying to win a tournament, when you're trying to win that $2 off your buddy, you always feel that pressure, and the better routines you have, the better off that I think you handle things under pressure.
Great. I'd like to go back a little bit in your history, starting just when you were at UVA, and at what point you knew that you would, make a go for it on the tour, and just give us a little bit of your timetable.
Well, growing up in Galax, Virginia, which is an awesome spot to grow up, I played football, played basketball, played golf, and to be honest, my true love through high school was basketball. I mean, I loved golf, but I enjoyed doing everything, but I was really wanted to play basketball. But when I got in UVA, I said, you know what, I'm going to go to UVA, because if I was going to play basketball in college, it was going to be at a smaller college. And I actually tried to walk to Virginia, and thought I was actually going to make the junior varsity team that they had at the time. And but anyway, I ended up playing on the golf team, and every summer I just worked on my game, and it just kind of got better and better. I mean, I played pretty well as a junior, but I didn't play in a lot of tournaments. And through the summers of my college career, I just kept getting better and working on it harder. And so I decided I was going to turn pro right after I graduated, and I did. And I graduated, got married, turned professional, and I was ready to go. So it was, my life had really changed. So it was a really fun time for me. But during the off season, I always played basketball. In the winter months, I would take some time off, and as I turned pro and trying to qualify for the tour, one winter I got hurt playing basketball, and they told me I might not play golf again. And if I did, it wouldn't be the level that I was used to. So at that point, I got my amateur status back, and had to wait 3 years to start playing again, and did. And that, turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I mean, at the time, I thought it was terrible, but it was, I was convinced to play competitively. So it kind of led me down a different path. And, I just think I was blessed to have the opportunity to continue playing and had a great amateur career and then end up getting to turn pro again. So for the Champions Tour. So, I've been very blessed in many ways that.
And how did you work having your family, your wife? I know you mentioned your kids caddied for you at different points. And will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, when I first started playing a lot, it was kind of like having two. We had a business that I was working in, and then in the evenings, lots of times I'd go hit balls till dark, and I don't know how many times, just many times, we would take a blanket over. And I didn't really have a driving range. We just had a little area on a golf course where they had a little place you could hit balls onto the golf course, and I'd wait till people got through, and I was hitting balls, and we had like a little picnic. We'd take all the kids would be out there, and we would pick up some chicken or something and eat out there, and I'd hit balls, and the kids would all go out there and pick up the balls, and I'd hit them again. And we did that so many times, and I spent hours and hours working on my game. And then as we started playing in tournaments, and they would go with me. They were all over the place. And once they got older and they started caddying for me at different times, I mean, all three of the kids have caddied. For the kids to say that they've caddied at the Masters and the U.S. Open and U.S. Amateur Finals, it's like, what, this is pretty cool. It makes a great story, and it really, my wife and three kids have all been so supportive of my golf through the years that I wouldn't have done what I've done if it wasn't been for their support.
So I guess this was another question that came in with the registrations. What were some of the things you enjoyed most about being on the tour?
Playing on the Champions Tour was a special time. I mean, it was pretty incredible to go out there and compete against the guys that really the best players in the world and over different generations. I think at the age I was, I played starting when I was 50 on the Champions Tour. That's the age you can start, and I was fortunate enough to get through the qualifying school. And I'd say that I enjoy the competition, but to be out there or playing in the same tournaments that Jack Nicklaus or Tom Watson, Curtis Strange and Lanny Watkins and Dave Stockton and Bernard Langer, and just playing with those guys, and you're eating lunch with them, you're eating dinner, you're playing golf with them, you're competing against them, you see them every day in practice, you're playing practice rounds, just a camaraderie of all the people, and quickly became very good friends. And not playing the regular tour, I wondered how I'd be treated out there, but the guys could not have been nicer to me. And I'll never forget how nice they were to me. It was pretty incredible.
That's great. You mentioned a couple of names. There's another question that came in about Vinny Gill, what your relationship was with him.
Well, you're probably talking about Vinny Giles.
Vinny Giles.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Vinny he is a great friend and one of the all-time best amateurs ever in the world. I mean, you look at his record, it's totally incredible. We've had a lot of laughs together. We've competed against each other. He's beat me, I beat him. One of the winning the Virginia Amateur, beating him in the finals one year at Country Club of Virginia. It was an incredible day. It was just seeing a lot of good golf for both of us. And I remember playing the 36-hole final, and I played well the first 18, and I think I was maybe 4 up. I think I was shot 68, maybe the first 18, and he came back in the second, the next 9, and actually tied it up and then made a putt I remember he made a putt like on the 9th hole after we were even at that point, and I followed it up with one right behind him, a long putt. And then from the next 6 holes, I don't think I missed a putt inside. I think I made one putt, was about 6 feet, and I made about 4 putts from about 20 or 30 feet. And on the last hole when I closed him out, he went over and grabbed my putter and threw it about 30 yards over into a bunker. And we laugh about it. He's such a good competitor, and he was a big part of me being who I am as an amateur player. I mean, I thought so much of him and put him up on a pedestal. So it was, we had a great relationship. He's a very good friend.
That's great. Let's see. Jeff has asked in the Q&A box, you mentioned the putt at the Masters that was not a happy memory, but what about the best shot that you hit at Augusta?
Oh my. That's a good one too. You know what? I'd say probably. I mean, I hit a lot of good shots. Augusta was funny because I hit a lot of bad shots. I mean, I hit a lot of had made quite a few bogeys, but I made a lot of birdies. For the week, I think except for Olathable, who won the tournament, I was the second best on the par fives for the week. I had just probably one of the shorter hitters of the field, and but I picture one of the shots that I hit was on 15, which is the par five. I'd hit a drive that I ended up having to lay up. I couldn't go for it in two, and I laid it up to about 75 or 80 yards and had a really, really tight lie. You're hitting a little bit downhill, hitting back up to the green, which is a little elevated, and it just has to be the perfect distance and the perfect trajectory. And it's, if you watch the players hit there, they hit a lot of shots and spin back into the water, or they'll hit it over the green. And it's just a tough shot. And to me, I had worked on my distance wedges. I was always a good wedge player, but I had worked on distances based on playing at Galax Country Club, and I had worked on my yardages of how far I hit every shot. And I had walked off all these different holes from different places on the golf course that I always seemed to hit it close from to see exactly how far it was. And I remember over the shot at Augusta on 15 that I had like 80 yards to the hole. And I remember a yardage at Galax Country Club on the second hole that if I hit an iron off the tee and if I was at the third fence post past the hickory tree, I was 80 yards. So I'm in Augusta hitting my 80-yard shot, pretending I'm at Galax Country Club, and probably everybody at Galax Country Club is pretending they're playing Augusta. And I ended up hitting this wedge shot up there about 6 feet and knocked it in for birdie and just kind of went on. It just kind of myself, I'm pretending I'm somewhere else.
That's great. Here's a question that came in just a minute ago. What's the best way to get back on track if you're playing and everything suddenly goes off the rails? That's
a $1 million question, because we've all been there before. And sometimes you could be playing really well score wise and know that you're not hitting the ball very well. And at some point you're like, man, I just hope I can get in. And some days that you're playing terrible, but you're scoring terrible, but you're hitting it well, and it doesn't scare you. So it's the days that you're not hitting it very solid. You just got to hit that reset button and clear your mind, take a couple of deep breaths, and really, like I say before, it's really getting back to rhythm and tempo and target thinking instead of technical terms. And we tend to try to fix every shot we do sometimes, and we hit a bad shot. We want to fix that shot. What did I do wrong? And you need to quit thinking so much what you did wrong, but what am I trying to do right on the next shot? And you just have to have selective memory, and you want to forget those bad shots and remember the good shots that you hit. And sometimes the greatest golfers have a very short memory for bad shots, and they remember the good ones. It's the people that walk in after they play, and no matter what they shot, they always tell you, well, if I'd done this, I could have been better. They're thinking about the things where they messed up, whereas the other people say, man, I made 8 birdies, or I hit some great shots, and you don't hear them dwell on the bad shots they hit. And that's the ones, that positive energy really kind of feeds on the golf course.
Do you have a golf mentor who inspired you?
Growing up, Jack Nicklaus was my hero. He had a book called Golf My Way, and that was my little golf Bible. I mean, I had it was highlighted in yellow. I read a lot of golf books. I just kind of studied the swing, and always, I took a tidbit of information from here and there. But for some reason, that book kind of stuck with me for a long time, and I would take it with me and read it and read it and read it. And I thought he was the best. He was to me. I just thought that at the time he was just the best player ever. And I tell you actually a little funny story about Jack. I was playing in the finals of the North-South Amateur, and it was a 36-hole final, and we started about 8 o'clock in the morning on the first hole. We're playing Pinehurst number 2. There was a little putting green beside the first tee, and I'd got there early. It was about 6 or 6:30. I was going to go eat breakfast inside and then go out and warm up. But on my way in, I just stopped and put my bag down, and I'm putting a few putts. And somebody was walking behind me, and I didn't look up to see who it was. I thought they went on, but in a second, I realized they had turned around. They pecked me on the shoulder, and I turned around and said, "Excuse me, I'm I want to introduce myself. I'm Jackie's father. Well, I was playing Jackie Nicklaus in the finals, and this is Jack standing there, and just said, I'm Jackie's father. And I started laughing, like, yeah, like I wouldn't know who you are. And but he was awesome. And the rest of the day, he followed us out there for 36 holes. And after the first 18 holes, we went in and ate lunch before we played the second 18. And there were two tables set up. Nicholas at one table, and we were at the other table. And I had my wife and at that time the two boys, and my sons were, one of them was 6 and one of them was 3, and Jay was the one that was 3. And right in the middle of lunch, Jack gets up and comes over to the table and says, "Man, what great golf I'm seeing. Both of you are playing well. Good luck to you." And he looked down at the boys and said, "Boys, are y'all enjoying the golf? Are you fun watching your dad play? And this is great." And Jay, the 3-year-old, looked up at Jack right in his face and says, "My daddy's going to whip your kid." And it got uncomfortably quiet for about what seemed like 3 minutes, which was probably only about 5 seconds. But Jack and I looked at each other, and we finally just started laughing. And it was an awesome day. And then 20 years later, he signed these Scottish notes, Bank of Scotland notes, with him when he's crossing the bridge, and signed them for Jay's groomsman for a gift. So, the same kid that he said he was going to whip his kid, he turned around and did that later on. So I think a lot of Jack Nicklaus.
Oh, that's great. That's a great story. Did you stay in the crow's nest at Augusta?
I did. I mean, the family, we actually rented a house for the week and had somebody come in and cook, so we wouldn't have to fight all the restaurant things. But on Sunday, I went in on Sunday, and my family went to the house, but I said, you know what, I'm going to stay in the crow's nest one night just to say I did. And so it was awesome to go in the champions locker room. You go up into the crow's nest and to be able to say that you were in there and spent the night, it was just a great feeling. And I'm so glad that I did that. But after the first night, I went over and stayed the rest of the time with the family in the house, and which made for a very special week.
That's great. Okay, we have some just kind of general golf interest questions and some of the trends that are surfacing. And I see one question just came in. What's your feeling about these gimmick clubs that have emerged? Rescue wood, different lofts for wedges, etc. Necessary or not?
Yeah, if I had my pick, I would have stopped the lofts on wedges at 56. Now they go up a lot higher. To me, I always seemed to manage when I was younger with the 56, could hit high and low shots. To me, it's, I think I don't mind the clubs being the other way. I mean, everybody kind of has their preference. I think the biggest thing might have been if the USGA had done something about the ball. Maybe the ball didn't go as far, that you actually put a certain restriction at that point where everybody's kind of playing the same type ball or not. I just think the game has kind of gotten out of control. People have gotten so long now that it's pretty incredible. So I don't know as far as the hybrids and the rescues and whatever. I mean, I don't have a problem with those. You look at the old clubs that they had when they first started the game. I mean, they changed so much. But to me, the biggest impact has really been the ball more than the club, I think.
Okay, here we go with Bryson, Rory. A lot of golfers have admitted that they have tried to change their swings after seeing what Bryson DeChambeau has done with his whole fitness regimen. Rory McIlroy, among others. What are your thoughts on golfers trying to change their swing? And do you think it's good for young golfers to try to emulate DeChambeau's style?
You know what? I mean, he may be changing the game a bit, for sure. I don't know that it'll be in masses, but I think you'll definitely see a change in how people think about it. I mean, he's so analytical of how he approaches the game, and it's hard to argue with success, but it's just like anything else. I don't think it's just because it's right for him doesn't make it right for you. And I think it's when people start trying to change their game to be somebody else's, it's just doesn't belong to them anymore. And it may work for a while. I think it's just hard to do. Now, the process might be a process that they want to work on, but if you start doing too many things drastically different, would you ask Jim Furyk to change his swing to hit it better? When you see people start to get into too many changes in the regiments, and I take David Duval, for example, one of the best ball strikers I've ever played with. I thought he was incredible, and he got in the real fitness thing, and his game really it wasn't quite the same once he started doing that as it was before. And to me, he was a wonderful player, wonderful ball striker. When I played him one time in the U.S. Amateur, and I just thought this guy is going to be just knock him dead on the tour. I mean, he just was so solid and so good. But I guess it's like everybody, no matter how good you are, you're always striving to get better. And what can I do to get better? And sometimes it sends you down a different road that maybe makes it hard to recover from.
We had a couple of questions come in from people with children who are playing. One of our children plays competitively, pursuing D3, maybe D1. What is your best advice for navigating the ups and downs of competitive tournament golf mentally and adaptively?
I think that really becomes a commitment for that individual. How hard are you willing to try? Golf can be a very lonely game. It can be a very selfish game. You've got to find a way that works for you, but you have to have a plan to make that work. And there are no guarantees, but you have to like the process. If you don't like the process, what it takes to get better and to be the best, and ask questions to the best players that find people who have done it, been successful, get some advice from them. I don't think, it is a hard way to go. There are so many great players, but somebody's got to do it. And don't give up on your dreams just because it's hard or somebody says you can't do it. But I think it's one of those things that you set your goals, but you have to be willing to really commit to those and work at it. But you can't be too hard on yourself. And I always told people, I said, the best thing you can do is to remember the great shots. I wish I'd have done some of the things that I've learned since. But if I'm telling young kids now, it's like keep a journal of the shots you hit under pressure, the great shots you hit that you want to remember forever, and make a list of those and just go back and look at them every so often, and it'll just keep that image in your mind and just keep looking forward. I mean, I think you can do so many great things can happen on a golf course, and just be aware and have that kind of memory that you can draw from that. But it's just like, playing at Augusta, there's so many different memories that I take away from that. But let me tell you, I'll tell you one quick story at Augusta, and thinking about memories was on 17 in the third round when I was playing with Steve Stricker. And that was when the old Eisenhower tree was still on the left side in the rough. And I'd hit the tree off the tee and it fell underneath. And we get up there and the group in front of us is still on the green and they're putting. So I'm kind of waiting for them to finish, and I'm looking down, I'm talking to my son T, who was caddying. And I looked up and I see the flag. See what the flag I think is in. I said, all right, I'm going to hit this shot. I can't really get it on the because the tree was in the way. So I'm just going to try to punch it and let it roll up and try to get it in the front bunker because the pin was on the top right of the green. And I hit this shot, and man, I hit it really good. And that's probably going to be in that bunker where it would leave myself the easiest shot I could have to try to make par. Well, Steve Stricker's on the other side, and he yelled across. He says, "On the green." I said, "That ball's on the green." He said, "No, they're still on the green." And when I hit, and the ball actually did roll up by the bunker and rolled up on the green, and Rocco Mediate is putting for birdie from about 15 feet. My ball rolls between him and the hole as he's putting, and rolls across the green and hits his bag on the edge of the green and stops. Now, my ball is only probably 15 or 20 feet away myself, putting for birdie, and he's still putting in the group in front of me. So now my stomach comes up right up in my throat. I'm like ready to throw up. It's like, what have I just done? Probably the only to ever hit into somebody on a par 4 at Augusta during the Masters. And walking up the fairway, I tell Steve Stricker, I said, "You need to go apologize for this." He looked at me kind of funny, like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, I'm 45, so I'm a lot older than you are. My son's never caddied in the Masters before, and you're caddied. Shoot, he's older than I am. So we were you're the best one. You had the best eyesight, and you knew better than either one of us. So you should have go up there and apologize for that happening. And he started laughing. We got up there, and I apologized to him and said, "I'm sorry." And he said, "Yeah, no problem." Since it was just went right in between me and hit my bag and stopped right off the edge of the green. But I have to say, I'm probably the only person to hit into a group, upon a par 4 during the match.
That's great. We have had a couple questions come in from people who've known you for a long time. That's how I know that you're actually Tommy. We're going to keep calling you Tom tonight, but a lot of people are referring to you as Tommy.
Yeah.
Here's one from Steve Murphy. Do you miss the cars we used to drive to tournaments in when we were in school?
Oh my. Hi, Steve. Steve is a great friend. Good player. We had a lot of fun on the team at Virginia. But we had these pretty ugly state cars that we would take. We'd have to take 2 cars, and they kind of rattled and rolled as we went. And it was pretty interesting because that was back during the gas shortage. I can remember that was when the rationing gas, and you had to have odd and even license plates to get gas. You could only get like 10 gallons. And here we were trying to go to a tournament in Pinehurst from here with 2 cars with different license plates. We had to drive out of the way. We actually drove through Galax and got gas and went on to Pinehurst from Galax, which is where I grew up, which was out of the way, but it was like the only way we could kind of make it work. But I don't miss riding those cars to the tournament.
Here's another question. Have you played golf in every state? If so, what's your favorite state? And then
I have not. I have not played in Alaska. I have not played in Maine. I've played in a lot of states. I have to say I've played in a lot of states and a lot of countries. But what would be my favorite state to play golf in? You know what? I don't know. I guess I love playing in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I love Florida courses. I think I just like warm weather. And I grew up on hilly golf courses, and they aren't so hilly down there. But I'd have to say that probably I'm just a warm weather player. I love it hot. So I'd probably pick Florida to play so many courses in a warm weather.
Great. And how about in Virginia? What's your favorite course in Virginia?
I haven't played a lot of the newer courses. I've been out of Virginia until recently. I was out for about 20 years in South Carolina, but I would have to say the Upper Cascades would be one of my favorite. I grew up on the hilly golf course. I love Farmington, where I'm at. I think it's another course that's withstood the test of time, that proves that you don't have to be super long or change everything drastically to go into modern times. But to me, I think those are 2 of my favorites. For different reasons. But I would have to stick with the 2 of those.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming Masters. I want to talk about your picks, your favorites, any dark horses.
It's always hard to go against Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas. DeChambeau, he's playing awfully good. Jordan Spieth, all of a sudden, he's starting to play well again. I'd say my pick would be Justin Thomas. I'd love to see Matt Kuchar coming. I'd love to see him win a major. Matt is a good friend. We were on the Walker Cup together in Scotland. We were on the World Amateur team in Santiago, Chile. He's actually played well in the last couple of tournaments. He finished 3rd in the world match play, and he played well this past week. And so I know, he says he's having fun again, so he's playing better. And so, I'm picking him as a dark horse to come through with a really good tournament.
Great. Okay, we have somebody who lives in Maine. Bob Lambert says you now have an open invitation to play there with him anytime you're in Maine.
Thank you.
There's another question. What do you think of Mo Norman's swing?
He's an incredible story. I've never met him and never knew him, but I've talked to quite a few people who did, and they say he's incredible. He's definitely kind of a one plane type, but the guy was he's one of those special people that just do incredible things. He could stand there and hit 500 balls off the same tee and it never moved. He could put a blanket over him when he got out there, but he might turn around and hit him backwards straight towards you. You hear stories about him playing in tournaments, and he would hear somebody say, well, Mo's not a very good bunker player. And the next hole he'd hit it in the bunker on purpose just so he could prove to somebody that he could hit it out of the bunker. His mind just worked in different ways. He was just an odd guy, but the guy was incredible. Would I say that I would try to copy his swing? No, but I'd like to copy his results. But there are so many different ways to swing the club. So many of the new players are very similar. When you look at all the old players on the Hall of Fame and all the different swings that they had, I think it's just it's become a more efficient game. I think that's one reason people hit it farther than they used to, besides the equipment. But do I think Mo Norman had a good swing? Yes. Would I want to swing like him? Not particularly. But I'm not sure if I was going to pick anybody's. It would have been more like Tiger Woods in his best days. I thought it was like a perfect swing for a long time. But there's so many good players. I don't know. There's just so many different kinds of swings that produce great results.
Here's a question about UVA. How did UVA help prepare you for life on the tour? And then after, what did you study at UVA? You were comm school?
I was in the comm school. You know what? I enjoyed the comm school. In the business world, I was in business, and we were a petroleum distributor for years and running business, and it definitely gave me a lot of things that I could use in business. Time management would probably be a good thing. I probably should have studied time management a little bit harder when I was in school, but I think that's big. Period. Whether it's in school or in the golf and trying to play professionally or trying to play seriously. But I've just found that if you have a plan and you commit yourself to that plan, you can be successful in a lot of different ways, whether it's on a golf course or business or whatever it might be. But UVA was a great place for me to be. I enjoyed my time here. I have so many friends in the area. I look back at my first coach there, Gordon Burris, who's still around, who's done like everything in the world at UVA. He is UVA to me, and it's been a great friend. But UVA's meant a lot to me for a lot of different reasons. But I think it's an awesome place.
That's great. Well, we're happy to have you back in Charlottesville. Had a question. A parent asked, do you ever help out aspiring D1?
Yes. I mean, to me, I've given a lot of lessons. When I quit playing golf on the Champions Tour, I started giving some lessons, and not sure if I was really going to like not playing competitively, which I didn't like not playing competitively because I did enjoy that. But once I quit playing competitively, I've really loved giving lessons. But I don't care if it's an aspiring pro, really great player, or whether it's a beginner. To me, I get as big a kick out of just seeing somebody improve. But I think that I've got several people that I help that are aspiring pros, and I hope that they can make it. But I try to give them. It's almost more. I help them with their swing some. I help them with their thought process probably more than the swing, and not necessarily from my success, but sometimes from my failure, you learn more things that you should have done. I can tell them the things I did well, but can also tell them the things I wish I had done that I think I could have done better.
Mm-hmm. And because golf is such a lifelong sport, several questions came in just about, as you age, how you can just kind of keep your game where you want it to be. Somebody said they're seeing some speed loss. He said, I've lost 10 miles an hour over the last decade. So he's tracking this. But do you have any suggestions?
That is going to happen. I mean, it's a matter of when and how much can you slow that down. I have to say, when I quit playing on the Champions Tour, I lost about 7 miles an hour over about a 6-month period. And I kept thinking, well, that's just my back issues, and I'm going to get that straight. Not that I had a major issue, but it was enough to have me stop playing and competitively. But I did not get that back. I got maybe a little bit back, but not much. But to me, it's about trying to keep your flexibility, trying to keep some strength, not wear yourself out. But I see some of the older players, some of them hit it just as well as they hit it, say, 10 years ago, and some of them lose it really fast. And it's the ones that are inactive, not playing as often, are going to lose it faster. But I see people that are not really trying to stay in shape, or maybe not trying to be as flexible. And it's the older you get, the easier it is to lose, and it's the harder it is to recover.
Okay, this is the last question. This just came in. You can only play one more round of golf, and you can pick any course in the world. What is your choice? Well,
if I could do it tournament week, I'd go to Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't tournament week, I want to go to Ireland and play Royal County Down. I think it's an awesome golf course. It's a beautiful place. It's a difficult course, but to me, it's just like, man, getting out there and looking out at the water and the views and the scenery. It's just incredible to me. And just, I kind of like that links golf course feel anyway. So, I think I just go to Ireland and play Royal County Down.
Okay, that's great. Well, Tom, I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight, for the time you spent also at Farmington on that windy Saturday. It's been so much fun to get to know you through this program. So thank you for letting me twist your arm to do it.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad. Thanks for everybody for watching.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank everybody behind the scenes, UVA Clubs, who helps put these programs together. Have a good night, everyone.